Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the podcast. We're going to be bringing on some people in the tech field, software integrations, APIs. I'm Miles Pines, your host, and today our first guest is William, my co-founder, who used to deal with integrations on a daily basis at Clay. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I'm William. I'm the co-founder of Endgrate along with the amazing host Miles. Yeah, essentially I worked with integrations at Clay for around like a year and a half in high school, and it was a pretty interesting ride. It was a pretty great experience.
So why don't you start up by telling us what is Clay for anyone who doesn't know?
Yeah, so Clay essentially, when I started there, was a spreadsheet that essentially was an Airtable competitor, like a Google Sheets competitor, where they had, a bunch of different integrations and you could do like a bunch of different actions with them. So, for example, you could pull in contacts from HubSpot and like enrich them with Clearbit or something, and then, send them out to MailChimp. That was kind of like an all-in-one platform that Clay was capable of. And I think now it's evolved into more of like a B2B prospecting tool. So the core infrastructure is still the same, but now they're focused on, like enriching leads, working a lot with like data providers and marketing tools. So that's essentially like a gist of what Clay is up to.
Got it. That's really cool. It sounds like you would have had to have a lot of experience with integrations. Is that the first time you ever interacted with APIs?
Yeah, yeah. So I actually applied when I was in sophomore year of high school. So I was just looking for engineering internships, and my background back then was just like competitive programming. So I was like a C++ kind of guy. I didn't really deal with APIs at all, other than like I built like a Reddit account bot maker once, which I tweeted about. But yeah, my experience with APIs was very limited. And I didn't even know the language that like Clay used. So I remember like the first day, like one of the questions was like, what is like main.js, or like what is index.js? And I was like, oh yeah, I totally know what that is. Yeah, but I did not. But yeah, it was like a big learning experience. Like I think it took me like a couple of weeks to get the hang of it, but I learned pretty quickly and eventually got pretty well versed in the whole realm of making API requests.
Wow, that's impressive. How long did you work at Clay?
So it was from the kind of like mid end of sophomore year until after I got into Harvard. So it was like probably like overall it was like two years, but it was on and
Wow.
off since senior year. I didn't really work much since I was heavy heavy hit with senioritis. But yeah, other than that, it was a pretty long ride, and yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
Wow, fantastic. What was it like working there? Did you have a good time?
Well, I had a great time there. I mean, all the people there were super supportive. A bunch of the people that were there were like really helpful. Like I remember like my first year, there was like this guy Zach who would like send memes in GitHub PR. Like when someone like was merging something, he would like send me a meme that said like merge it, something like that. Anyway, it was just like a really fun, chill vibe. I mean, like we had like retreats in like upstate New York, and yeah, you just get to learn from people like so much smarter than you. Like I was 100% like the dumbest kid there and like the only kid there. So like it was like I was being babysit, but like it was nice. It was great.
I've heard some funny stories about these retreats. Is there anything you'd like to share?
Well, yeah, I think I told you before, but like pretty much at these retreats and anytime we would go out, I was doing this thing where I would eat like a huge lunch, like an absolutely insane amount of food during lunchtime. And I was like working out trying to get big. So I would like ask permission, like for the co-founder of Clay, which is who's Kareem. So I would be like, Kareem, can I order 3 lunches? And he'd be like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. Like we're funded by Sequoia. Like I don't think this is gonna break the budget. So yeah, I would order like 4 lunches a day and never looked back. I mean, like even to this day, even when we're like in the dining halls, I usually like get a bunch of food for lunch, and I think that all started out um, while I was eating free food at Clay. So yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. So let's get a little bit back on track. How much? When did you deal with integrations? What was your job?
Yeah, my essentially like in the beginning and for a good while, my job was solely just like integrations engineer pretty much. So I was anytime there was a customer request, hey, we need like some random ass integration, I would be like, okay, I'm gonna build this out as quick as I can. So then it would just be, hours and like days and almost like weeks of just, reading API docs. Everything would break. Like you think that, the API docs are fine, you write out all the code and it just doesn't work. And that was pretty much the process for every single integration we built at Clay. It was a lot of trial and error, lots of time debugging things. The documentation says one thing and the code that you're getting, is resulting in another. So yeah, it was quite, banging your head against the wall a bunch of times, but eventually, you power through it and make the integration. So yeah, that's pretty much like the first half of my time at Clay. That's essentially all I was doing. As I became better and like could actually like contribute to the code base, I ended up doing some advanced stuff. So like I was doing, dynamic field support. So a lot of the integrations, they had custom fields and Clay didn't have a way to like pull those in at that moment. So, I created like the infrastructure behind that. And eventually when we were migrating over, so I don't know if a lot of people know, but Clay used to have a completely like different platform. And probably around like 2021, we were doing this huge migration to the new platform. And they put me in charge of making out the integration authentication flow. So I was pretty much in charge of the infrastructure surrounding the new integration pipeline. So that was great. And got tons of experience, working in security. I know we both love security. So yeah, that's pretty
Yes.
much what I was doing at Clay. A lot of integrations work, infrastructure work, and making sure people's keys were secure and where they should be.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that sounds very familiar. Is that some, did that lead to anything later in life?
I wonder, it's totally not like we're working on an integrations company right now. But yeah, I mean, working at Clay, like definitely opened my eyes to, how terrible of an experience integrations were. I mean, the co-founder, one of the co-founders of Clay, Nikolai, who I'm still really close with. He literally like after I built like the integrations infrastructure for migrating everything over, he was like, "This can be like a like in and of itself," and I'm like, "You're right. Let's make it a product in and of itself." So yeah, it kind of almost like directly led us to now we're working on our own platform and all of the things that I've learned working at Clay kind of got inherited by Endgrate. And if I was still working at Clay, I would be devoid of a job because or no, I wouldn't be devoid of a job. I would be essentially allowed to work on things that are not integrations had we used us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that is really interesting. Why don't we tell the people a little bit more about Endgrate?
Yeah, we can end off with a little Endgrate spiel. Miles, how about you do it? You've just been saying that's interesting and just asking me questions. How about you go ahead?
Yeah, yeah, that sounds good. So Endgrate is an integrations platform where you connect once and then you get access to over 100 integrations. And we basically handle everything from the front end, authentication, mapping. You really don't have to do anything but redirect the user to us. And yeah, that's sort of a quick overview. And yeah, we've just been working with a bunch of, SaaS companies and it's been going great recently. We launched 2 weeks ago and yeah, it's just been upwards from there.
Yep. Nothing can stop us. We're chugging along, getting more customers, and
Grinding.
grinding more integrations out. But we do it for the love of integrations and for the love of APIs, so that you don't have to do it yourself. Okay. Would you say that about wraps up our first podcast? I mean, that was fun. We should, yeah. I
I
think
should do this
we're
more
getting the
often.
hang of it. Yeah, we should do it more often, get more guests in. But yeah, I'd say that was a pretty successful first podcast.
I think that's correct. I think we can wrap it up. Thank you so much for listening and see you next time. Bye.
Bye.